Hi, everyone. We have Jason Harrington with Zing Health today. He's going to be going over their 2026 product offerings. Thank you, Jason, for taking the time. Take it away.
Absolutely. No, thank you, Miranda. As Miranda mentioned, my name is Jason Harrington. I'm Zing Health's regional broker director. Just a bunch of fancy words for supporting all of our markets, I'd say. Locally in Michigan, we do have, as you can see on the screen here, our newest addition to our team. And Nick, I am trying to look here to see if you're on yet. If you're not, I'll wait to the end and you can introduce yourself. Nick Poirier, he just moved back home, I would call it, into Michigan, like the Detroit metropolitan area proper. He was on the west side of the state for the last couple of years, and I'll kind of leave it at that. And you guys can all get to know Nick a little bit better as you engage him throughout AEP and beyond. Now, with that said, you can scan his QR code there to get his direct information or you can just ping me and I'll share it as well, perhaps at the end of this presentation. That said, I've got a ton to cover. So my apologies if I try and squeeze too much in here. We've got 45 minutes, and I'm sure it's even a little bit less than that as we speak. So let's go ahead and just get started. To begin with, Zing Health has been around. We launched in 2019 in Illinois, Chicagoland area proper, in one county only. And here we find ourselves entering our sixth AEP campaign. Where is it? 7. Yeah, 7. Anyway, and our mission, our focus, to include our differentiators really hasn't changed that much along our journey. We very early on, with our focus on chronic special needs, deficiencies in certain subsets of populations, not just from health disparities, but also some of those things that impact people's lives, such as food deserts and lack of transportation. So with that said, I'll go ahead and kick things off by just really kind of patting ourselves on the back briefly here. In all of our markets in 2025, Health Metrics Research gave us an award across all markets for a couple of different types of plans, but it was all focused on our Part D benefit. As you can see here, we have zero premium plans in the Select Care HMO and Elite Select HMO. I'll talk to you about what the differences in those two plans are, as well as our deep dive into the CSNP space. We got a lot to cover today, as I mentioned. Forgive me if we, down towards the bottom of the list, we kind of get cut off at the end there, but we will give you more opportunities to hear about Zing Health and what we're doing in 2026, either virtually or in person. With that said, we really do have 4 critical areas of focus that the company really kind of prides itself on. We do, you will find, have differentiated product designs, especially in the CSNP space. I feel over the last few years, we find a lot of carriers actually reaching out directly to us with questions, wanting to just kind of brainstorm and spitball a little bit. And you'll see it not only in the design, but also in the integrated care delivery. We've got a great customer service experience, I would say. Again, not perfect, but I don't know any customer service experience that really is. But we do have a very robust customer experience process, as well as sales and marketing. We're very data driven, and really like to go the extra mile to lean in and partner with you all out in the field. That said, we've seen some tremendous growth over the last actually 3 years, especially. It wasn't too long ago that I had come to Michigan and talked about how we were excited to have 3,000 members at the end of AEP. And then this last year, we were at 9,000. And then at the beginning of, or as you can see here on 7/1, we're at 31,000 plus lives. That continues to grow month over month. And especially during this lock-in period that we're currently in, we continue to see marked growth, really because of our focus on that CSNP space. In fact, 71% or greater, depending on the market, is enrolling into these plans as of 7/1 as well. And you can see our footprint there on the right. Now, in terms of expansion for 2026, we do have 9 new counties, bringing us up to 52 counties. No state expansion, but instead some good old-fashioned kind of build out to our current markets. You'll see in Michigan, Lapeer County is a new addition for us in 2026. With that said, here's just a real kind of broad picture of the types of plans that we offer. As you can see here, HMOs, PPOs, and then we have 2 subsets under that HMO and PPO umbrella. GE is for general enrollment plans. Those are the type of plans that people can enroll in year round if they're aging in or if they don't have any special conditions, but they have an SEP or AEP or OEP election periods. The CSNPs, though, you can see 21 CSNPs across all of our markets. And I like to call out here that you all are really the first group to get a closer look at a new product that we're launching only in Michigan for this upcoming year. And that's an HMO CSNP that focuses on folks that are overweight or obese. And so we'll talk about what that looks like in the upcoming slides. We also, again, have general enrollment plans, HMOs, HMO PSPs, and PPOs. You're probably familiar with what an HMO is, what a PPO is. The PSP is a provider-specific plan, and that's where we partner with value-based care groups in all of our markets. In Michigan there, to be specific, it's Oak Street Health and Village Medical. So we do have 2 fabulous partners there. We continue to grow this network out and add additional partners in all service areas. So keep your eyes peeled. There may be some additional dues here as we go into 2026. And again, this kind of calls that out and explains a little bit as to why we really focus on and these types of PSP plans, and also why they do kind of catch the eye of a beneficiary, but from quality to utilization to care management and so on and so forth. These plans typically outshine our other plans that we offer. In terms of our product portfolio, though, I've already touched upon the HMO, PPO, and PSP HMO there on the left, but now you get a little bit of a look at what our differentiating products are in the CSNP space. So there in Michigan, we have HMO and PPO CSNPs. We will have an HMO CSNP, which is a PSP. We will not have a dual focused or an LIS focused product, I believe, in Michigan, but we will have an ESRD CSNP, as well as on the far right there, that overweight, obesity, metabolic syndrome CSNP plan. It is a PSP. So again, we'll talk about the kind of the nuances of that as we get into this presentation. But for 2026, this is what you're looking at. As I mentioned earlier, in the top right corner, in that yellow, the overweight, obesity HMO CSNP is a product that has some richer benefits than our general enrollment plans. Is designed for individuals focused on, as it says here, improving health, wellness, and preventing chronic conditions as it pertains to obesity. One of the other things is CMS has opened up the ESRD space a bit. In years past, we've ran this ESRD product. In fact, this will be our 3rd year that we will be, launching it for 2026 AEP. And it really did just focus on folks with ESRD, end-stage renal disease. That means they have kidney failure. They're going in for dialysis on a regular basis, once, twice, even perhaps 3 times a week. And these plans have been highly successful at helping people reduce the amount of out-of-pocket costs and ensure that they get to their dialysis appointments and home again without any kind of disruption. This year, CMS has opened that up to all stages of CKD, chronic kidney disease. So again, this plan will be primarily focused on the ESRD space. However, the eligibility is opened up to the other levels of CKD. And you'll see the other types of products here, but we've already discussed some of those already, to include our C-SNPs. And, as I mentioned, the LIS and the dual focus plans are only in certain markets, as well as the PPO plans. Now, in terms of the PSP, and we'll just take another brief moment to talk about these value-based care providers, right? Oak Street Health has been a partner of ours since our inception. But within this last year, we have picked up Village Medical there in Michigan, as well as Absolute Care in Illinois and Ohio. Again, what these plans, the requirement for enrollment into these plans is, of course, you have to have the proper election period, right, to enroll at any given time throughout the year. But you also must select a primary care physician from this narrower network of physicians. So if they're getting onto the ESRD plan, or even a general enrollment PSP or C-SNP PSP, they must choose a physician from Oak Street Health, Village Medical there in Michigan, and or Absolute Care in the other markets. Now, in terms of the chronic special needs plans, I mean, as you saw on the slide earlier, we are bringing 22 of these products to 6 states. So that's a lot of C-SNP plans, right? But what it really means is that there are options for beneficiaries. And we really focus on some of the key benefit highlights that you see there on the right, from transportation, $0 copays, not just for primary care visits, but also for C-SNP specific specialists. We have 6 of them carved out where they would pay no copay to go to those physicians that really help treat their chronic condition at a higher rate. We also have a very competitive Part D or RX, as I've mentioned earlier. It's very competitive, and we've been recognized for that. But in the C-SNP space, what that really means is that we have added an additional tier. So we have 2 different formularies. In the C-SNPs, we have a 6-tier formulary. In Tier 6, the beneficiary pays $0 for those Tier 6 brand name medications. We also offer combined allowance for OTC, healthy foods, and utility services as a bundle, and they are monthly. They don't roll over, but they are considerably higher dollar amounts than if you were to carve those out. And you'll see that in our general enrollment plans, but in our C-SNP plans, they really shine. We also offer PAPA benefits in our HMO products, not in the PPO, but in our HMO products. The PAPA benefit is one of those stickier types of supplemental benefits that we have found to really be a game changer for the beneficiaries that are on our plans. In-home support services, meal prep, light housekeeping, companionship, to include additional transportation benefit. These Papa Pals will actually take our members on trips to the grocery store, shopping, to pay bills, perhaps even to a friend's house. And so that's an additional transportation benefit that is not realized in the traditional transportation category within Medicare Advantage, as well as gym memberships, things like that. So very excited about being able to continue to bring all of these year over year. Nothing has changed in terms of these supplemental benefits, and they continue to be a winning combination and recipe for us. Now, in terms of our C-SNP sales opportunity, we've been talking about C-SNPs. I started, in fact, I just had my 5-year anniversary with Zing yesterday, and it seems like I've been talking about C-SNPs, even longer than that, almost. That's how much we talk about it. And really, it's the opportunity that exists. C-SNPs were really non-existent in terms of membership and enrollment numbers up until literally this last 12 to 18 months, quite honestly. And that enrollment has doubled in size from just a couple of years ago. But if you look at the pie chart on the left, it speaks to the different chronic conditions that our plans serve and focus on, such as diabetes type 1 or 2, cardiovascular disease. There's that CKD, chronic kidney disease, and then chronic heart failure. Now, the one thing I like to point out with those numbers on the right is the chronic kidney disease, impacts 17 million beneficiaries nationwide, not in our service areas, but nationwide, if it just was the ESRD subset of that population, it would be around a million, 1.2 perhaps. So it's a much larger cohort. And thus, I think that this will continue to be a key driver in enrollments into this type of plan. Now, in terms of conditions, again, we're kind of at the mercy of CMS. And just like they opened up that ESRD plan to include all levels of CKD, they have also looked at chronic heart failure and cardiovascular disorders. And you can see on the left what those subset conditions are. This year, they made a decision to eliminate the chronic venous thromboembolism and pivot towards valvular heart disease. So there's a little bit of a change here in course, again, per CMS's guidance, but this will actually be more inclusive in that subset population. So you will find more opportunities for your clients to get into one of these CSNP plans in 2026. Now, to kind of drill down a little bit further on the ESRD and chronic kidney disease plans, I mentioned $0 dialysis, right? That's probably the biggest, the biggest win for these plans. The annual out-of-pocket typically with original Medicare is between $6,000 and $9,000 for someone who is paying for dialysis at 20%. They typically don't have transportation. They have to schedule that accordingly. Now, on this ESRD CKD CSNP plan, if you have ESRD, you will get unlimited transportation. If you are diagnosed with just CKD, and I say just, meaning you don't have to go get dialysis, your benefit is not unlimited on the transportation side, yet you are still given additional transportation rides, just to be clear. And we also partner not only with DaVita and Fresenius Kidney Care, which are more national and well-known brands. We also, for instance, in Michigan there, we have a couple of different partners with St. Clair Kidney, and I believe it's Michigan MKD, I believe, Michigan Kidney and Dialysis, something like that. Pardon me for not knowing that off the top of my head. But we do have other partners, and we also see a lot of hospital systems will also have smaller hospital-owned dialysis clinics as well. If those hospitals are in network, typically those dialysis centers are also. In terms of the overweight, obesity, CSNP, again, I mentioned this is new. We're kind of dipping our toe in, and we've focused on, the opportunity in Michigan to really, kind of plant our flag with the hope and the expectation that in years to come, this will be a more broadly offered plan in all of our service areas. You can see what it means to be overweight with the BMI range there, but a beneficiary needs to be obese, which means a BMI range of 30 or above. Now, that might sound like a lot, but believe it or not, I've even talked to people that, are very fit individuals. Let's say a bodybuilder, a weightlifter, right? Their BMI actually is just as high, if not higher. So you kind of have to, navigate that piece of it, as well as the metabolic syndrome. And as you can see here, if someone is obese and they're seeing a primary care physician on a regular basis, most likely they have 3 or more of these conditions: abdominal obesity, high triglycerides, low HDL, high blood pressure, or high blood sugar. So keep that in mind when you're kind of kicking the tires on this type of plan. We kind of go into it a little bit further here, and we will do some CSNP specific training, but this kind of gives you a little bit more idea of how a BMI is calculated, and then some communication tips on how to really begin that conversation with the beneficiary. Now, to pivot over to the PPOs, we have PPO in our general enrollment space as well as in our CSNP space, focusing on that diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and chronic heart failure. We have cost share parity for most Part A and Part B services. There's a little bit of a difference in some of the specialty visits on some of these plans, but it's very, very nominal. Competitive maximum out of pockets, as well as supplemental benefits, especially in that CSNP space with the SSBCI benefits. Now, in terms of naming convention for our plans, the key words in the middle of this screen, which are highlighted in orange, those key words will represent the type of plan that you find on the left. So every HMO that we offer will have the word select, every PPO open choice. The PSP, that provider specific plan that partners with our value-based care providers, will have elite, so on and so forth, all the way down. You'll see that that new plan with the obesity CSNP will have the balance in it. But yet you'll also look over and see that it says elite. So that, again, should trigger your understanding of, okay, not only is this the obesity plan, but it also requires someone to choose a primary care physician from that narrower network of value-based care partners. Now, in terms of Michigan, as I mentioned, we are jumping into Lapeer County for 2026, but this also gives you an idea of where we currently are, which are 6 counties. So again, just really trying to round out that metropolitan area, and hopefully we'll be seeing some additional service area additions in the years to come. We are very close to entering a couple of other counties. I won't talk about which ones those are, but literally like a specialty or two out away from having a viable network. So more to come on that in the years ahead. Now, in terms of the plan types, we have a bunch of green boxes checked here, but there are a couple of red ones there. Really, that's the dual focus plans, right? So we will not have any dual focus HMOs or PPOs for 2026. As you all know, that landscape is changing, not just in Michigan, but in the 6 states that we're currently in. There's disruption across the board. Either folks, getting into the space, or in the case of Illinois, after 10 years of being this auto assignment space, they're pulling out, and DSNPs are relaunching in Illinois for 2026. So again, just stay in front of this type of information. I know you all do, but this again kind of represents the different plan types that we offer in Michigan. Again, just another visual for what that is, but I do like to point out on the far left are the service area counties, and you'll see the expansion in some of these different types of plans in bold, right? So at the top in those general enrollment plans, that local PPO, the expansion is to Genesee and Lapeer. It was not in Genesee this last year. So now we will have it in Genesee and Lapeer. You'll also notice under the CSNP space, the local PPO again, Genesee and Lapeer. And then the chronic kidney disease is in all counties to include Lapeer for 2026. Now, in terms of some of the other kind of highlights or call outs to these types of plans, you'll notice that, again, the MOOPs are pretty darn competitive. We've got that great grocery utility and OTC benefit that ranges between $1,200 and $3,200 a year. So keep your eyes posted on the details of those when we get into the nitty gritty here. We also have some reimbursement for air conditioning filters and AC units as part of our SSBCI funds in certain CSNP products. We've got that transportation. We have $0 insulin. Now, that $0 insulin is something we made a decision on back before the prior administration had lowered the cost of insulins to $35. We were already ahead of the market, already ahead of the curve, and we've reduced insulins to $0 for all plans, not just CSNP that are focused on diabetes, but also the general enrollment plans as well. Now, the dental coverage, the vision, the hearing, those big 3 really remain relatively untouched in terms of dollar amounts year over year. We've always offered routine podiatry on all plans. And in case you don't know or not familiar with podiatry in general, Medicare does not cover, original Medicare does not cover standard or routine podiatry visits. They only cover a specialist visit to a podiatrist. But this is something that is really, really important. And our membership continues to utilize this routine podiatry, these visits, at a high rate. healthcare, foot care is so important to someone's health. Even, clipping their nails or something like that. But, it's not just about, suffering from a condition such as diabetes, but it's also, for folks that, are having mobility issues, and whatnot. And then, as I mentioned, $0 copay for C-SNPs. You'll see on those specific specialists, those are actually listed in one of the orange boxes there, the top one. And then we also have chronic meal offerings for our chronic special needs plans. That's aside from post-discharge. So we offer post-discharge meals on all plans, but our chronic meal offering in our C-SNPs gives each member the ability to get up to 28 meals. They are frozen, but you do meet it with a nutritionalist to identify what your needs are. Perhaps you're gluten-free or you need a low sugar diet, things like that. And we will ship those meals directly to the beneficiary, the member, at no cost. So here we are kind of getting into the nitty gritty again, right? The numbers. And I don't really like to go line by line, top to bottom, left to right, or anything like that. I'll just call out, again, these are general enrollment as they're designated in the top left corner. We have your HMO PSP, which again is in the middle. And you'll notice that's a smaller footprint of service area. Why? Well, because Macomb, Oakland, and Wayne counties are where these value-based care providers are located. So they're not in all counties. And then we've got the PPO, which again is in all of our counties for 2026. Just a couple of specific call outs. I will say this. If you look underneath where PCP is on the left, you'll see C-SNP special needs plan specialists, as well as just regular specialist copays. Very competitive to go see a specialist, even on these general enrollment plans in terms of cost. The PPO on the far right, there is an in-network and out-of-network difference in copays, $20 and $30. But you'll see that, on down the line, again, the big three, those benefits are remaining, unchanged and pretty darn competitive. But I do want to call out, as we get to the bottom of this screen, we have our OTC benefit, which is a quarterly benefit in the general enrollment plans. It does not roll over, and it's a set dollar amount for that entire quarter. Should someone have a chronic condition and they're not in a C-SNP, but they're in a general enrollment, and I'll show you a list of what those conditions are. They do include some of our chronic conditions, but there are some others, such as cancer. Should they have two of those conditions, they would be eligible for an SSBCI benefit on a monthly basis of $55, $122, and $50, respectively, in that PPO. And then you'll see the copays for the different tiers in our Part D formulary for the general enrollment plans at the bottom. In terms of the C-SNP, again, up in the top left-hand corner, you'll see where this designates C-SNP. We've got the HMO C-SNP, the PSP once again in the middle, and again, the PPO on the far right. Now, you'll notice that the maximum out of pockets, again, will remain very competitive, but I'll ask you to bring your eye down to the specialist copays, and you'll notice that on that top one where it says SNP specialist, it's $0 across the board. The other specialists are $20 across the board on all plans. And then I want you to kind of look down a little bit further to the transportation line. Again, for the cardiovascular disease, diabetics, things like that, 28 and 30 one-way trips for transportation, but the PPO does not have that. Okay. Now, one of the other things to pay attention to is the standalone OTC allowance, which is $90 a quarter and $75 a quarter, respectively. And then you have the SSBCI allowance of $77, $157, which in the middle in that PSP, that's a combined OTC, food, utility, and air conditioning benefit of $157 a month, and then back to the PPO. Again, not much difference in the copays on the formulary there, other than you see tier 2 goes from 8 down to 5. And then if you go over to the right, you see that tier 6 at $0. We always call out sildenafil because it is on our formulary in tier 2. Pivoting over to the ESRD plan, again, this is that plan that focuses on on chronic kidney disease, but especially those with end-stage renal disease. And again, these folks aren't giving up much, if anything, in terms of all of their ancillary benefits, right? Dental, hearing, vision, right? All of these are very respectable numbers, but they're also getting that $0 dialysis, that unlimited transportation if they have ESRD diagnosis. And in this particular plan, it's the SSBCI allowance, right, is a monthly benefit of $137 a month, and that includes OTC food utility and RICS. I'll talk about that here in a moment. And then, of course, the 6-tier formulary, again, just like the others. And then lastly, here's our obesity CSNP, right? So this is the new product for 2026. It will be in Macomb, Oakland, and Wayne only in the service area. And as you kind of scroll down, you'll see that the specialist copays on this are $20. So they're unlike the other ones, which are $0. These do have a copay of $20, but they also have some additional wellness benefits, such as monthly nutritional counseling, an enhanced fitness benefit to include virtual and live classes, fitness kits, and activity trackers, as well as 28 lifestyle transition meals. And then again, we talk a little bit about the GLP-1s and how some of those medications that are typically on a tier 6 and a CSNP, in this plan, some of those will have an $11 copay opposed to a $0 copay, and we'll call those out here momentarily as well, but you'll see how that's outlined here at the bottom of the slide on the left. Now, again, it also highlights that if you get a mail order on tier 6, you'll pay $33 for that. The SSBCI benefit is carved out from the OTC, so you get $150 a quarter for OTC and $60 a month for food and utilities. Lastly, in terms of Michigan-specific information, I do want to just call out some of our larger provider partners: Ascension, Beaumont, Corewell, DMC, Tenet. I mean, it wasn't University of Michigan. It wasn't all that long ago where we had a couple of icons on this screen. That was it, or logos, I should say, right? I'm really happy and pleased to say that our network continues to grow and change. And of course, there's been a lot of disruption in terms of different hospital groups, right? Either partnering and or getting gobbled up by one another. But this is what it looks like as of today. Taking a real quick spin to the formulary updates. I mentioned we have 2 formularies. We have one for our non-CSNP plans and LIS Focus CSNP plan. That's a 5-tier formulary. The 6-tier formulary is on the CSNP. You'll see some of the medications here that are called out for that obesity plan. They will have a copay on that tier 6, such as Jardiance, Farxiga, Xarelto, and Eliquis. Again, just calling out the different tiers here. Won't spend any more time on this, I'd say, today. Real quick, just giving you a high-level look at what our tier 6 formulary looks like. This is pared down from last year, by the way. We had quite a few additional medications that were on this list, and because, again, CMS continues to move the goal line on some of these medications, making them more readily available at a fair price, our formulary will also change. So here this year, you see Entresto, Genumet, Januvia, Mounjaro, Ozempic, Rybelsus, and Trulicity as being the key drivers in that tier 6 formulary at $0 copay, unless you're in that obesity plan. In terms of formulary insulins, we've also updated this and added some additional insulins this year, and you'll see those in the top left corner as well as on the third column at the bottom. So we've added some to this. I'm really happy about that. It includes pens, injectables, capsules, liquids, powders, all of that. And as I mentioned, tier 2, sildenafil is one of those things Dr. Whitaker, our founder, had heard from the field, from the brokers when he was out in the first couple of years of launch of our plans into Michigan, especially, that sildenafil was a big request from beneficiaries. And so we continue to offer it at different dosages as well. We also offer $0 copay on CGMs, if you didn't know that. That's on all plans, not just CSNPs. We offered the Dexcom G6 and the Dexcom G7 at no cost, but I do want to call out here, in order to get it for $0 copay, at the top there, you'll see that you'll see that the CGM must be prescribed by the physician. Okay, so the physician writes a script, the member takes it to the pharmacy and picks up their CGM there. Should they decide to go through DME, even to include ADS, which is a partner and a great partner of ours, they would be responsible for a 20% coinsurance. So this is the best, most economical way for someone to get a CGM. Have your physician write a script, take it to the pharmacy. And that also goes for the preferred diabetic strips. Those also come at $0, and you'll see the brand names there, but next to the star, midway down on this slide. But again, it must be a script from a physician taken to the pharmacy to get that at $0. Some kind of housekeeping along, how beneficiaries can file for a prior auth, how they get mail order pharmacy, what's the BIN number in case they enrolled on the last day of the month and they don't have their card in their hand yet, things like that. This is all found on our website at myzinghealth.com under the member tab. And in terms of just different types of benefits and their definition, you probably saw on a couple of slides earlier the designation of mandatory supplemental benefits. And I've only presented this 2026 presentation a couple of times, and that was late last week in Nashville. And I got the question, what are mandatory supplemental benefits opposed to optional, right? So mandatory, as you can see here, they're benefits not covered in A, B, or D, right? But they are covered by the plan for every person enrolled into that MA plan and has that benefit package. And there's no additional premium to access to those benefits. So again, that's all members. And that's CMS's kind of, definition, so to speak, right? The optional supplemental benefits mean that beneficiaries in certain plans may have to pay additional money to receive that benefit. So we do not offer any of those. All of our supplemental benefits are mandatory, meaning they're in every plan. They're, available to all members at the same cost, which typically is $0. And then so on and so forth, uniform flexibility benefits towards the bottom. And then we all know that the VBID model is ending for Medicare Advantage plans in 2026. So the value-based insurance design will be gone after this year. So keep that in mind in terms of, the LIS folks that you service. There's going to be some disruption there. So keep that in mind if you're out in the field. I'm going to go ahead and kind of whiz through these last ones because there's still a few slides to go. But again, we talk about some of our supplemental benefits and what they cover. All of our big three here are $0 copay from $1. They pay nothing out of pocket for comprehensive and preventative services on all three of these. Wanted to make a call out that Liberty Dental is our dental partner for a dental benefit, and they actually are adding the Guardian network of dentists to our plans for 2026. And I'm really excited about this because if you look at Michigan, that's over 5,600 new dentists added to the network in Michigan alone. I'll also mention that Guardian is the network that our employees use internal. And I've never had any issues with them. So I'm happy to say that this is going to impact all markets for 2026. In terms of additional supplemental benefits, right? They're getting the Zing Smart Card. Everyone gets it. It has the OTC benefit, the food and utility. It has the reduction in cost sharing. There's that RCIS. That's an enhancement on our ESRD plan. So they can use that to pay for select medical copays and coinsurance. How about that? So if someone's on the ESRD plan, or if they have CKD and they're on that plan, they can use that kind of debit card to pay for select medical copays and coinsurance. And that's outlined in their evidence of coverage. And, I think it'll be, a big win for folks that are struggling to pay, bills or just trying to keep the lights on in their house. Also, rewards and incentives. It's also on that same card. So again, you've got, your debit card benefit changes. There will be a flex card if they have a flex benefit in their plan. We have pared the flex benefit back year over year, like most carriers, or even eliminating it in some of the plans. But this year they will have a flex card and then a food card. Again, keeping in mind that the VBID is going away at the end of 2025. In terms of the OTC items, WEX is our partner in this space. This is just a brief visual of some of those high-level, suppliers for those OTC products. This is not all, but it's a good portion of it. Other supplemental benefits, as I mentioned, we have healthy food and grocery allowance. We have post-discharge meals, as well as those chronic condition meals that I mentioned earlier. And you'll see down at the bottom there, it says qualifying members will receive 14 or 28 meals limited to once per year, and they're delivered to the meals or to the member's home. Some of the other additional supplemental benefits, again, all mandatory supplemental benefits, as I discussed earlier, in-home support services, PERS, bathroom safety devices. That's something else we've offered to all beneficiaries since our first plan was launched in Illinois. That's carved out of the OTC benefit. So if someone needs a shower wand, a shower bench, a grab bar, they can get that product without dipping into their OTC benefit. We also have utility allowance for that debit card, as well as that indoor air quality equipment and services allowance in Michigan only, right? And so we're excited to bring that to you all there in Michigan. I also mentioned that we have the non-emergency transportation offered on all plans except for the PPOs. But then also don't forget the PAPA benefit can be used for in-home support services. And those rides, again, can take our members to more locations. It does not have to be medically necessary to tap into the rides through PAPA. Fitness and gym benefit, we offer that on every plan except for the ESRD CKD plan. We have some nutritional and dietary counseling on select plans, and then also worldwide coverage for emergency care and urgent care. We continue to offer zero copays as in years past for the telemedicine and nurse advice hotline. And then I do want to call out that the HRAs, the health risk assessments, are mandatory on some of our plans. We need those on the CSNPs, right? Those are important to do. You may as well do it at the point of sale. It takes 5 to 10 minutes tops. It's not mandatory for enrollment, but it is mandatory to keep their benefits going month over month, year over year. We will pay you $100 for any CSNP HRA that you complete within the first 7 days, I believe, of enrollment. So just do it on the spot and you'll never have to worry about it. And we'll pay you after 90 days from their effective date. Again, as a reminder, it's not required on the HMO and PPO in the general enrollment place, but in the obesity CSNP and the overweight, it is a requirement. The qualifying conditions are on the right-hand side there, and that's the list of the 2 or more SSBCI benefits. As I mentioned, in order to get some of those benefits on the obesity plan, cancer, cardiovascular, chronic heart failure, chronic lung disorder, dementia, and diabetes. Now, remember, that's not all. Those conditions are more broad than our regular CSNPs. This is only for that overweight and obesity plan, right? And then you'll see the other stuff here for our traditional CSNPs. And yes, the HRAs are required, and we do have to do those in order for them to maintain their benefits after 90 days and once a year. And we take care of that if you all don't. But again, get a leg up, get it done, make $100. And then here's just some other benefits that are changing and or being added. So you'll see the ESRD and the CKD plans above in the uniform flexibility benefits, and then some of the benefits that are no longer offered, again, only in specific types of plans, such as the PPO, the general enrollment plan. I mentioned the ESRD plan will not have fitness this year, but it's very minimal disruption. And that, is based a lot on just, if folks are using the benefits or not. And that's really it. So very little disruption there on those. Just want to make a quick call out to our broker support team. Please give them a call, not with your members. That all should go to customer service. But if you as a broker need to engage with us, you can call Nick or you can call that line there. Again, kind of calling out the special election periods. But this year, also, I want to make a point that, today we're running with Ascend for our in-house enrollment platform. We are transitioning to Sunfire for our in-house enrollment platform for 2026. We're really excited about that. It'll give you ways to compare plans and streamline the enrollment process. We also work with ConnectSure, Health Sherpa, and we also accept good old-fashioned paper applications. In terms of CSNP verifications, and I'll kind of wrap it with this, we have an 84% verification rate year to date. Last year it was 93% when we were able to do automated verification. Remember, CMS changed that and threw us a curveball and said, nope, it's got to be a signature now. Well, we initiated a lot of changes last August, a year ago, when we found out this news in the final rule, and we began to already alter our process. And that 84% is growing and getting even better. And I dare any other carrier to even stand their verification rate up against ours. I will call out also that the CSNP verification process is also being streamlined. So it's a 60-day clock that starts to tick on the first day of membership. At 30 days, you're going to get a text message alerting you to the fact that there is no VCC or verification form done for a particular member, and in which case we'd love for you to try and partner with us to get that done, of course. But most likely we've already reached out to their care physicians for that information. Again, just a quick visual of what that looks like, to include plan changes that are initiated even by Zing in the last 30 days, always keeping AOR present and not disrupting that as well. And then, just a visual on ways that you can help us out, right? Like, do a little bit of that at the kitchen room table, right? Do they have the condition? Are they, answering some of those questions you're asking? Give the provider information, especially if they're not in network. If you can get their physician's information, we can get the verification done with an in or out of network physician. Educate them on what that form looks like, leave a copy, and follow up 45 days after their start date. Now, value-based care partners, they do the VCC for us. So you don't have to do it if they go to Oak Street or Village MD. You don't have to do it at all, but just keep that in mind. And then we also have some specialty care providers. These folks will engage with your clients in Crew Health if they suffer from cardiac disease, kidney and ESRD as Strive, and ADS for diabetic equipment supply. And with that, I'm going to just, kind of throw some of this information up on the board, Miranda. But as you can see, we've got some, some direct lines for different parts or contact information of Zing Health. We also have our 2026 product certification live. So please make sure that you're checking your Evolve broker portal for some of that. We also offer a $50 rebate or should I say savings on AHIP as well. And you can find a lot of this information at myzinghealth.com and look for the broker tab at the top. When you click on this, you're going to see this page there. It'll have links to, again, the broker portal where you can track your certification, do your contracting, and track your book of business. And then, of course, hopefully see that AEP status as a green check mark. You can also order supplies and marketing materials from TGI Direct. We already have pre-ordering live, so you can go in if you're RTS already and pre-order 2026 materials. You can go to zingfirstlook.com to review any of the information we've talked about today, to include additional information that's more of a deep dive. Again, that's zingfirstlook.com. And then just one last share here on the far right top corner, Michigan. Don Sims Carter is our marketing outreach specialist. He works with Nick hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder, to ensure that if you want to do marketing events, that you have the right tools and information to do so in an efficient and effective manner. With that said, I'm done. Thanks for allowing me to go a few minutes over time, Miranda, but I do appreciate you all. And please feel free to reach out to Nick with any questions. I'll go ahead and drop that information in the chat here for everyone to see. Miranda, do you have any further questions?
Thank you so much, Jason. That was very thorough and a lot of info. So appreciate
Yes.
getting that all in there.
Yes. Of course. I do want to call out with Nick, his phone number actually is a 773 phone number because he's from the Chicagoland area. I don't want that to throw you guys off when you see that. I just dropped it in the chat there for everyone to see. Shoot him a text message, introduce yourself. Really happy to have him on board.
I'm on the line also.
Oh, hey, Nick. Oh, there you go, bud.
Yeah, wait, hold on. There I am. Yay. Hi, everybody.
Hey. Awesome.
Me.
Thanks,
I'm lonely.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, hopefully you got some things unpacked after this weekend move.
I'm getting there. One of my rooms is completely filled with boxes, but we're getting there.
Doesn't surprise me.
Cool. All right, I'm off video now.
Right on. Thanks, guys. You have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks.
Bye-bye.